Right, what is up, guys? Today's podcast will actually be about podcasting because here with us we have Charlie, fellow podcaster. How are you, mate?
Not too bad. How are you?
Yeah, very well. And we will discuss many things because actually the bodybuilding podcast community is growing each week. I think there are so many podcasts right now, most of them within UK community. Why podcasting? Why did you get into it?
So for me, it's all been about kind of bringing information and So the whole reason why I built my podcast in the first place was bringing stories to people. So understanding different people within the fitness business, how their background began, how they started within the journey, but also any tips, any kind of insights they have to help others. I've had quite a lot of success and quite a lot of feedback from people saying that it's really informative and they've taken a lot from it. And that's kind of the only reason I started it, really, is just to bring more information to people and show them what you can do.
When was the first episode released?
So I started 2 weeks ago. I've done 10 episodes since. So
And that's some high frequency. Yeah.
I've done quite a few, yeah. I'm trying to do 3 a week. And then eventually it might go down to 2, but I don't really want to go lower than 2. I like that frequency.
Yeah, man, that's you got me. I'm doing like one per week to keep it in schedule. So are you planning to go for like next few weeks kicking out 3, or are you planning to go maybe above?
Sticking with 3, yeah. So I'm
Three
doing 3 a week, yeah, because it means that those who are actually interested in it, those who want to watch it all the time, every time you kind of finish one, there'll be another one out. So like I listen to podcasts all the time. I'll listen to it in the car, for example. 1-2 hour podcast will last me a couple days. And by the time I finish that, another episode is out. So that's kind of how I want to keep the schedule going, to try and keep people involved and interested in what I'm doing and who I'm podcasting with. But yeah, people are just liking the guests that are coming on. So I'm here for it.
Yeah, 3 is basically the modern wisdom level. I'm not sure if you like listening to other podcasts outside of bodybuilding. Probably, I assume so.
Modern wisdom is the one that's my favorite.
Yeah, the GOAT.
That's what. Yeah. That's what I listen to.
Are you going to the live show at the fall?
I want to. I really, really want to. I think I might end up going to the ones towards the end of the year in August because they're down my way in Winchester. They're in Portsmouth. But yeah, I do want to see them. They're very interesting.
Yeah, I'll go to the one in Manchester. It's like just a few days before the NBW, so this is like perfect timing because I'll have to be in UK. So obviously, I would still probably like to fly in just for that from Poland. But as I'm already there, it makes sense. So this is probably him. What would you say the top 3 of the podcasts outside of bodybuilding are? Because for me, like Modern Wisdom is definitely up there. But what are the other 2 you would put in that category?
Alex Hormozy's one. I don't know what the name of it is.
Yeah,
but I like
the game, I think.
Yeah, I like his one, and I also like Andrew Huberman's one. They're very good.
Yeah. So this is just like classic top. You can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one because I'm so invested in like Modern Wisdom, I'm always listening to that. So I rarely ever give myself an opportunity to listen to others. But like I'm here to listen to anyone really, as long as they've got good information, as long as they have something that's worth listening to, really, in a nice way. I'm not saying that in an offensive way, but yeah, it's just like I just love the content and the style of Modern Wisdom, the way it's very question based, the way it's very conversational based at the same time, and just that's kind of what I'm going for, really. That's the whole vibe I like.
Did starting your own thing change the way you perceived other podcasts like Modern Wisdom, or you start noticing some different like details that actually go through producing them?
Yeah, I think what I found is whenever I listen to a podcast now, I'm always analyzing the questions they ask and how they frame it and how they lead a question into a conversation and how I can take that into my own podcast and what words they use. And I think I now analyze podcasts on a much deeper level that I didn't before. Before it was just you listen to it and you're like, oh, that's good information.
Yeah.
Cool. And they carry on. Now it's like you actually listen to every single thing into it and you're really analyzing it. So But that's always the way I've been. I love over analyzing stuff, even if it's not the best thing to do.
Yeah, I think the one thing that Chris does very well is the intro. Like he just goes straight to the conversation. I was actually listening to many of the old episodes, probably the laugh hacks, etc. I revisited them like 4 or 5 times. And in the earlier episode, he had an intro, like he introed the guest or had some like some talk at the start or sponsor word, etc. And now this episode just goes straight into it. I really like the style. I want to implement it as well but you need to start with like a really good question opener and then try to come back to maybe intro the guest, because obviously he's in a position that he can like quote unquote get away with it, because like people know him, people likely know the guest. Like let's say if Morgan Housel comes for like 7th time, he doesn't need introduction. Like people know who he is, people know who the Chris is. So yeah, but the over analyzing part is like I can 100% resonate with it. Like even with Chris, he's the main character of this podcast, as it turns out. Even his ad reads are like so good and they feel so natural. I don't know if you're like this is probably the only time I don't skip ads. I actually enjoy listening to them because you can still get like some insight on how it should be read. Not sure if you like have some like notes on the ads itself.
So I'm loving his Photoshop ads, the ones where he puts his face on different people.
Yeah, the live tour.
Yeah, I think they're really, really funny. And they're clever as well, because you see people replying. It's like, this isn't who I think it is, and it's good in that way. But yeah, I think it's an interesting one. Going back to what you're saying about the intro thing, I've implemented that exact same thing. I am basically not introducing them, because I think a lot of the guests that I'm having now are of a bigger stance, so that they have more of an influence within bodybuilding. So a lot of people who are watching it are either coming from their page or they already know who it is. So that's what I'm kind of trying to focus on doing, just in order to, like, I want to get straight into the conversation. I want to get straight into the juicy part, the information they have to offer. And then at the end, then I can kind of debrief them and kind of then I can introduce. It's not necessarily introduce, it's more like signing off. But I definitely prefer that, because at the end of the day, it's like your title has their name in it. So if they've clicked on it, they've already seen who it is, like they know who the name is. Then you're going into the information with them. And then when you get towards the end, then you're like, thank you, so-and-so, really appreciate your time. Love what you're doing, what's coming up next with you, all of that kind of stuff. So you kind of go into a little bit of a debrief afterwards. But I'm definitely loving, just because for me it's a challenge. It's like when I'm prepping for the podcast, it's like I'm thinking about what question I can ask that can really draw out as much information. And it's also just playing around. So like, if you ask a question and they maybe give you 2, 3, 4 sentences and then the question's done, then it's probably not that best of a question. Whereas if you kind of shoot a question to them and next thing you know, you're talking for 20 minutes on it, like, that's the perfect thing, because you've really drawn information out of them. They've caught onto the question and they've loved it. Like, I love when they go, oh yeah, I really like that. And then they just start waffling. Yeah, I love that part.
Yeah, the one thing I found that is actually surprising, that many, like, I think all of my podcast guests, maybe with one exception, had podcasts themselves. So it was like kind of easier to actually have a conversation because they are like used to doing podcasting. So when I had like Finn or Reese, like they know they're on a podcast. Like they know they have to like explain things and talk, because that's what podcast is about. You mentioned prepping for the episode. Do you have like a routine, a schedule? Because I know I have my systems, but I'm curious what yours are.
So I don't have as much of a schedule. So the first few episodes, I did like really deep dives into people. And like I tried to get as much information beforehand so I could create questions around it. But at the same time, if they kind of didn't quite know, or they had like vague in memory, I could kind of bring that up. And also it meant that those who are listening could see that I've researched them a little bit more. And then when I swayed away a little bit, like the last few episodes have swayed away from interview style as much. Like obviously it's still an interview, but it's more kind of based on topics. It's more based on what they like and their journey and stuff like that. It's more trying to get them to tell you. So trying to create questions that will allow the guest to think about it and then give you the answers without making it seem like you're directly going, oh, how many shows did you do? Or how did this show go? Like you reel them into the questions like, oh, you had a really, really successful season. Talk to me about that. And then they start telling you, and then they give you all the information you need, and you don't have to do that deep search. So I think it's a mixture between understanding the person, so having a research on them to understand where they've been and what they've done, but at the same time, don't go too deep into your research, because then you start to bias questions, and next thing you know, you find the questions aren't as good. So what I found the best is I have kind of brief questions that I have to answer, but they're more questions on different topics so that I can lead with the question, they can talk, and then as they're talking, I'm just listening to think about questions that I want to ask them based on what they're telling me. So you're making the questions more personalized as you go so that they're more interested and more enticed in it.
Did you ever find yourself in a situation that you had a script, like let's say like few key questions, but you just went so off topic that you were like, okay, we're like swinging in with this, and you leave those questions without feeling the pressure to, oh, I have to keep them in if the conversation goes well?
Yeah, so I think it was like episode 4. It was with Jack Archer. I led him with I asked him 2 questions. And on the second question, we ended up speaking for 40 minutes on that one question. I remember looking at the time, and it's like 50 minutes gone by, and we were still, I looked at my question list and I'm still on the second one. But like, that's how it should be. Like, in my opinion, that's how you know you've asked a good question, how you know it's done well. If you don't even realize the time's passed and you've just spoken and you're just constantly picking up. So I think that's another good thing is when I do my podcast, so I have my camera there, which is above my screen. So my screen's here. I have my camera up there. So I'm trying to look at my camera as much as I can. Obviously, when you're talking, I'll probably end up looking at the screen and just looking at you to try and pick different things up. But by looking at the camera, it allows me to take the information in without necessarily seeing you. So I'm kind of in a different world in effect, so that all the information you're telling me is going straight into my head, and then I'm trying to generate questions based off of it.
Yeah, personally, I feel I'm having some trouble with the camera setup because at first it was like too low, so I was looking like other way, and now it's like here I'm looking at you and the camera is above, and I have notes on the other screen, so it's like trying to balance. Do you actually see like the questions or the camera? I've tried to do the intro like looking straight to the camera, but then when I'm speaking to a guest like you are here on the screen. But I found if the guest is speaking and I'm tilting this way, on the screen, when I position myself on the left side of the video, like people can watch on YouTube or Spotify, it looks like I'm looking at the guest. If it was the other way around, it would look weird. But yeah, the camera position, it plays a big role because it just looks off. If you are having a conversation, let's say you would be turning the other way, and so it's not like we're talking to each other. We'll be talking like you are talking to one wall and me to the other. You can still like get the conversation, but there's something of people might not realize it, but it just not look right.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because I think as podcast hosts, we overthink it a little bit more. Because like if you were to watch an in-person podcast, they're talking to each other, so the camera is on them, but they're not actually ever looking at the camera really because they're always talking to each other. And I think the same goes even when you're on a podcast where you're talking to someone over Zoom or over Riverside, whatever. I think it's the same because you're trying to fixate yourself on looking at the camera and making sure that the guests are going to be interested in you and that what you're saying is actually like resonating with them. But at the same time, like if you were to watch other people's podcasts, you don't even realize that they're not looking at the screen because that's not what you're paying attention to. You're paying attention to the information they're giving you and what they're telling you. So I think there's part of it. Yes, it's good to be aware of where you're looking. Like will end up looking at the screen a lot more than I think, but I'm trying to be conscious of it and making sure that I'm switching between looking at the camera, looking at the screen, looking at the camera, so that whoever's watching it, if they are picking up on it, they can see that I'm trying to look at the camera and I'm trying to keep them involved as well. But at the same time, I'm trying to make sure that the guest is feeling involved. So it's kind of finding a balance. But yeah, I was the same. So if you had the camera lower, I feel like you're almost looking down on someone. Whereas when you have the camera higher, like it's almost like they feel like you're looking up to them. So I think it's kind of like a little bit of a power thing. Definitely seems a bit more interesting when you have it higher. Like obviously I'm not going to be looking like this, but I mean, me personally, it makes me look better. So I like the camera higher.
Yeah. I think the issue with Riverside and looking at the guests is like, right now your video is blurred and it's not your fault. It just is just the Riverside connection. So sometimes when I have a conversation with a guest, I'm not really sure what their emotions are, because for me, this like few pixels, I know you are there, you're moving, your head is moving, so I know you're alive. But other than that, I can't really see it. And when I did, like I said before the recording, I did one with Sami. It will go live in 4 days, this Saturday. And we had a Wi-Fi connection, horrible, like best posing coach, but horrible, worst Wi-Fi possible. And his voice was like delayed, like his video was delayed like 2-3 seconds to the voice. So when he stopped speaking, I had to wait like 2-3 seconds to make sure to confirm that he actually stopped speaking, and then ask the question. So for someone listening in, it might seem like I'm retarded or something, because I'm like pausing, waiting for for him to finish the sentence. But yeah, what would be the like funniest situations you had with Riverside with the guests coming on? Or are your guests familiar with it?
So I had my coach join, and at first he didn't have any headphones in, so I could hear my own voice. So I was like, do you mind going get some headphones? You're like, oh, you want me to put them in? And I'm like, yeah. Can you put some headphones in? Because I can hear myself. And he's like, oh, okay, no worries. And then his Wi-Fi was so bad to the point where his screen was actually the same the whole time. So his screen never changed, and his voice was really robotic, and it was just all awful. Like his signal was poor. His video didn't upload at all, so his upload was on 0%, the whole Riverside thing. So then afterwards I sent him the link, and I was like, because he literally left as soon as it finished. I was like, oh, all right then. So I sent him the link, and I'm like, yeah, can you just download this for me? It took him like the whole day to download it, and I was just like, right, okay, whatever. And then when you watch the video back, it literally looks perfect. It doesn't even look like he's struggled in the slightest. Whereas, and to be fair, like I think because I was so focused on his voice, I could pick up when he was going to stop talking. So I almost started talking a little bit early, knowing that it was going to be slightly delayed. So it's just kind of that fine tuning, understanding their voice tone and like when they're going to end a sentence. And I think that's something you pick up a lot. The more guests you have, you kind of understand when they will stop talking. So you kind of know when to start or even slightly interrupt.
Yeah, I think after 1 hour with Sami, we had a connection. Like I know like what the delay is, so that could work. But yeah, when it comes to the connection, I feel like we as a host, like it's our obligation to give like clear instructions. And I always say, like when I invite someone, if it would be an issue, like we can do a Zoom, like no worries. Obviously Riverside is more convenient because you have the transcript, etc. But if it's an issue for someone, you can always do Zoom. And I feel like for some guests, like if I know for certain there might be actual trouble and it would delay our recording or even postpone it, I would probably switch to Zoom. Not sure if you're like such a Riverside supporter that you would always stick with it, or should you adjust it to the situation if it arrives?
No, it's definitely adjust it. Like, obviously the quality might not be as good, and it might be harder to edit. So if something was to go wrong, it'll be more difficult to go in and edit. But and also say for example their voice was really horrible in it, and the mic was really bad, and there was loads of echo. It's a lot more difficult to change it. I think that's why we like Riverside so much, because everything is so convenient. But to be fair, I haven't had anyone that struggled at the moment. I think a lot of people who I've had who have their own podcasts or whatever have kind of been like, oh, I really like this. And I'm like, yeah. So if you go to this link, you can get this discount code. You can get the first 45 days free. That's what I'm doing. I haven't paid a penny yet. But like, that's kind of the way that I see it is, if someone really does have a problem, yeah, you can change it. You can switch to Zoom or Google Meet or whatever will work. I think for me, it'll be more Google Meet because I don't want to pay for Zoom. But but that's just me, especially if I'm paying for this already. But yeah, I think it just changes from person to person. But for the most part, like even if they have really bad Wi-Fi, because it uploads on their side, you won't be able to tell. So I think that's the best thing about it. It's so good in that aspect. Even if they have poor Wi-Fi, poor whatever, you still got it all.
Yeah. After the episode with Finn, when we had some technical issues, I started to do a backup recording with OBS. So even if something would go wrong with the audio, because the video, we can deal with bad quality, but you need to be able to listen to the guest, hear him. So I do the OBS backup recording, like I record the Riverside app with the audio. So even like, let's say this thing crashed and you had no upload, I can use the audio from the OBS file just to be sure.
That's good.
Yeah, I was actually using Zoom for for like 11 months for the Polish podcast. It's all right, but I've heard on Modernism actually, when they were doing some life hacks, they said that if you cancel Zoom subscription, you can renew it at 50% off, and it doesn't work. Just for in case anyone wonders, it doesn't work. So I can confirm that.
Yeah, I'm always one that if I'm using a new app or if I'm using a new kind of subscription service, I will try my hardest to find as many free things as I can. So like Riverside, I was like, yeah, this is great. Let me have a look at it. Oh, I can get my first 14 days free. Cool. Let me go on YouTube. And I was like finding someone with a code that would get me the first month off. So I did the 14-day free, and then I used the code, and then I got the first 44 days free. And then, like, no doubt knowing me, I'll get to the end and I'll be like, yeah, okay, let me see if I can cancel it. And then if I can redo it with the code again or with a different email. But to be fair, it's not that bad. It's only like 40, no, not even that, 20 something quid for a month. Yeah, it's not bad at all. Bearing in mind how much you can rinse, how many podcasts you can put out. Like if I'm doing 3 a week, like in a 30-day span, I can do nearly 12, 13 episodes. Like, and if you're actually getting to the point where you're earning money from your podcast, then you're pretty much paying for it, aren't you?
Yeah, so that's why the high frequency you only have 45 days of Riverside, so we have to crack on with the guests too.
Yeah, exactly. I've just got to get as many as I can, get like a massive backload, and then just stop podcasting.
Yeah. Do you do any editing or just go with the Riverside export?
So I actually, funny enough, so I use my phone for the camera. Because when I first started, it was just ease. I do have, I have an Action 4, which I use for all of my content for Instagram and stuff like that. But that was a lot easier to do because I just edit everything in DaVinci. And then I was just like, oh, I wonder if I can use that as like the webcam kind of thing. And then I can do it on here. And then I can have my phone in case I need it if I wanted to take a photo with the guest or whatever, because some people do that and that's quite cool. So I thought it'd be quite convenient to have my phone. So I did the whole one with the episode with Jace. I did the whole episode with my camera, and I didn't realize till after that it actually recorded everything in D-Log, which is like the grayscale version to get more color. And then when I got to the end and went to edit it, I realized, and I went, oh shit, I can't even edit the color grading on here. So I had to export the my side to then put into DaVinci, to then color grade it all, to then export it again. Then I had to create a new project, and then they wouldn't combine together. There was just so many problems. And I said that it was going to upload at like 10 a.m. I didn't upload it until 12 because it spent me like 2 hours trying to figure everything out, then wait for it to upload and then actually do it. Yeah. So if you have something that works, stick with it until like you can find something. Like, I mean, later down the line, I'd love to have my own like studio, because I think for me, especially, I'm a very vibey person. Like, I go off people's vibe. If you have a good vibe, I've got a good vibe. If you're laughing all the time, I'm laughing all the time. But at the same time, if you're really serious and stuff like that, and you're not really entertaining different jokes or not entertaining the conversation, then I'll be a little bit more kind of put back. So I feel like personality is a very, very big thing within podcasting. And especially when you're over this, like obviously if we both have good cameras, we both have good decent internet connection, then you can kind of vibe with each other a lot better. Whereas when you're in person, you can actually catch their vibe. You can understand the way they're talking, the way they're understanding things, the way they're replying to the questions, the little keynotes, the facial expressions. Like, everything's a lot different when you're in person. And I think that's something that I want. I want to kind of create more of like a homey environment, and more of, I want all of my podcasts to look the same. I want them to have the same feel, just with different people. I think that's what I want.
Yeah. 100% agree. I mean, I can't really vibe because I don't really see. I know you're wearing a Gymshark t-shirt, but I couldn't read the text because it's so blurry. Yeah, the studio is honestly like, this is such a cool idea. I would like to do it as well but obviously I'm based in Poland, so the studio doesn't really make sense. I want to do like a studio like my setup. So this is like let's say like when Chris does his Mother Wisdom episode with a guest online. It still looks good. Like, his background, the lighting is proper, so it all looks good. It can look good, but obviously nothing can beat the studio. I think there's some other podcast that's been recently created with I'm not sure what the guy name is. I know he trained at Ultraflex. He used to. He's very tall. They did episode with Carl like last week. An unknown podcast, I think.
I'm not sure about it.
Chloe Pickford is in there, and her boyfriend, and they had Carl Pro Coach on. I think it's called Unknown Podcast.
Unknown Podcast. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get Callum on it. Callum.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Is this actually their studio, or is it just like
I don't
a place
know, actually.
to rent?
I don't know. It's either their place or it's either a place to rent. But yeah, I don't really know how it works, because like when you rent a place, do you have to get people who do the cameras? Do you have to get people who do all of the video sound system? And obviously you have to pay for the studio itself and those kind of things. I don't really know how it works truly, but yeah, I think it's an interesting one. It is something that I will probably look at down the line, but I think just having your own studio, having your own vibe, being able to change it to yourself, like you said, I think that's really important. And I think so kind of how I want it is, if I'm doing online podcasts, I want to set up for that, because then I can also use that same setup if I do solo podcasts, or that same setup if I do solo YouTube videos where I'm just talking. I can have that set up. And then also having like an interview style one, I think is quite cool. I like the idea of being across the table from someone, but like it being like a thin table. But yeah, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I just love talking to people and hearing different people's stories and hearing what they've been through and how they got over little things. Yeah, I just love it all. It's sick.
Yeah. I think that the best part is the networking side. Like, you get opportunities to talk to people that you otherwise wouldn't. Like, exactly. Like you also had some really cool guests. I also had like Tim, Finn, etc. Those guys. Like, yeah, you could talk to them like on daily basis, but this is like different. And now this is like you give them a reason to talk to, because they can obviously like share their knowledge, expertise with listeners. But I would never had a chance to talk to guys like Tim, and the guests that I will have on in the upcoming weeks. I don't want to announce that publicly yet, but yeah, some nice guests are coming. You wouldn't have that chance if it weren't for the podcast. This is like so cool.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all about kind of, but it's not just the people that you're talking to, it's everyone who follows those people as well. Like, I've had loads of people follow me from different accounts, from like Jace, from Harry, from whatever, Tim, and they're all people that I probably wouldn't have followed me before, because if they would have seen me at a meet or something, I'm just a person, I'm just someone else. Whereas it's like when you're a podcast host, especially if you're having people who are on a bigger platform, they have a wider audience, it gives you a little bit of authority because you're the one asking them the questions, you're putting them in the hot seat. So it's quite cool in that effect. Like I said to myself, I'm probably going to go to the Arnold in on the 28th of March. I've said to myself, I want at least one person to come up to me and say that they know who I am and they've really liked my podcast, and then I'll be great. I'll be great. I can't tell you how much that will mean to me. So yeah, but yeah, I just love being able to talk to people and getting the opportunity. I think that's the main thing. It's like having the opportunity to speak to someone who you might not have before. Like I have quite a lot of different connections anyway. But I was surprised how not easy, but how easy it was to connect with these people and to like literally just reach out. I was like, I'd love to have you on my podcast. I'd love to share your story and talk a little bit about X, Y, and Z. But like when I had Tim on, he gave me advice. He gave me tips. He was like, for those who are bigger and those who have a wider audience, they've probably been on a few podcasts before who's asked them about their background and how they started and how they got into fitness and all of that stuff. Maybe start thinking about those who are bigger, topics that you want to hear from them, topics you want to, like my one with Tim was all about prep, because he's a phenomenal prep coach, and that's what I took away from that. But yeah, like you said, it's like getting the opportunity. I've had a couple of different people message me, companies message me saying that they want to be on my podcast and they're loving what I'm doing and stuff like that, which I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do before. So yeah, it's very cool. Again, I'm not going to say anything too soon.
Yeah, I think the best, like for me, the best feeling was when I had Matt, the butcher, and he said that he listened to other episodes, or like Jack Kinzicloff and some other guys, that they act, for me, this is like so mind blowing. Like the guy I want to talk to, I want to have him join me on my podcast. He actually listened to some other episodes. So this is like another, like, this is like a different universe for me. This is like so cool. Speaking of Tim, like before I listened to his podcast with Jack, the Picking It Real, I think he was like intimidated. I was almost intimidated by him. He was like such a serious person. Like I obviously knew he was a phenomenal coach, but I met him at France when I was doing a show there, and he was just walking by. I look at him. I obviously know who he is, and it's like super serious, like zero smile, like 100% tuned in. And after listening to his podcast, I was like, hey, this guy is actually cool. So when I talked to him,
what the hell?
yeah, this is like, hey, he's not that scary. So that was really cool. And also, he didn't connect the headphones at first, so I had the same issue you described, Ariel, with the hearing myself.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, to be fair, it's like whenever someone joins the podcast, I'm like, I'm high energy from the start. Like I try and introduce them. I try and like welcome them high energy. I try and ask them how they've been, like how their week's going, blah, blah, blah. Like I spend the first kind of 5-10 minutes just talking with them, having a little conversation, trying to break the ice a little bit. But most importantly for me, it's about gathering their vibe. It's seeing how they react, how they, because I think the first few ones I jumped into it a little bit quick, and some of them I got away with. And then some of them, it kind of came back to bite me in the ass, but I thought it went a lot worse than it did. And that's simply just because I didn't really get the vibe too much. I didn't understand their vibe on a level that they were kind of persuading it. So, actually, to be fair, like, when's this one going to come out? When it does?
This one actually comes out this Wednesday.
Okay. Yeah, I'll hold out.
Yeah.
I'll hold out. But yeah, I've got a good few guests coming on, which is going to be interesting.
Yeah, there's always this feeling you have after doing an episode. Like you immediately know when you disconnect from the call, you're like, oh my god, that was like so perfect. You are buzzing. Yeah. Or why did I say that? Like I missed the question, etc. Like do you have those? I guess like you have to have those.
Yeah, I won't drop it. But after one of them, I'm not even joking. I literally came out. I spoke to my family afterwards. I was like, I felt like that was awful. Like I felt like that was really bad. I was like, I was trying to catch the vibe, and it just felt like every question was getting shut down. I didn't really, I couldn't necessarily not see myself in them, but it's like I couldn't relate to them on certain things. Couldn't relate to some of their views, and I just found it a really difficult conversation. And when I I watched it back and it wasn't actually that bad. But then like you can see on my body position and my facial expression and stuff like that, kind of that I was struggling with it. And that one taught me a lot, because I think on that one, that was the most research I'd done. Like I'd done so much research. I spent like an hour and a half of research, really digging into all of their background and understanding everything. And then I think I almost had too much information, or I had too many questions that like, and I had so many questions to the point where if I asked one that related to the other ones, and they almost shut it down, or they didn't quite give me the energy that I thought they were going to give me, then like the other questions were wasted. And I think that was the most difficult one. That was the one I learned the most on. And I've only had a couple where they've been really tough and I've come out of it and I'm like, oh, that was really difficult. Because for the most part, I vibe really well with them, and there's laughs going on, and the vibe is matched really well, and I really enjoy that. I think that's what's so good about podcasting, is you can literally just catch someone's vibe like that. And like you said, you can have a vibe with someone who you could never have spoken to previously, before literally just saying, I'm a podcaster, do you want to jump on? And they're like, hell yeah. But I think it goes back to what you were saying about people giving you opportunity. It's like, yes, you're having people that you never thought you could have on there, but at the same time, they're giving their time. They're giving you the opportunity to show them your time is worth.
Yeah, I find it funny that you mentioned the one episode where you did the most prep was actually the toughest. The one I did recently, it went out last week with Suki from BTS TV. I was like, man, to be honest, I was so nervous before doing this. I spoke to him in Derby in person, because when I went to the NPC seminar, my whole goal was like to go up to all the people I have on my list and invite them on the podcast, which I did with better or worse results. But I really wanted to do one with Suki, because there hasn't been any other like podcast with him. He does the news with Fuad, etc. But there isn't anything about him really. So I was so nervous. And I broke down like everything. I did research. I watched his YouTube videos from like 13 years, like all of it, all of the research. I have so many questions laid down there, like sections. I put the prompt even to Chat GPT, which I have never done before, to have like the best structure of this episode. And then I was so anxious to go through all the points that I almost rushed some answers. We could go on probably for the first question. We could probably expand more and talk about it. But I had to go to the second. Obviously, we had some time restrictions as well. So the pressure was on. And I wasn't like, I was not really mad at myself, but I was like unhappy with it, because this was like such a huge opportunity for me, like to have him on. And I was actually, this episode was supposed to come out in like 2-3 weeks time. But I saw the comments under his news with Fuad, and people were commenting like, we want to know more about Suki. And I see this guy has like 50 likes at the comment. So immediately I'm like, hey, I've literally just did an episode with him. I have to put it out today, because this is like his big chance. It wasn't big. This episode. Yeah. It had probably had the worst start out of all the episodes. Not sure why, but yeah, for anyone listening, it's still there. The first real interview with Suki on the origin of the Beyond the Stage. So definitely check it out. But yeah, this is always tough. What will be your plan of action after doing this episode?
In terms
the
of
tough
what?
one. Yeah, how do you do? Is there a time like, let's say, okay, let's calm down, like revisit this episode, check, is it actually that horrible, or am I just being under emotions? And how do you adjust for it to keep that iteration cycle going? So just like take notes, like check, and then execute another episode, making sure those mistakes won't happen again.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is understanding. It's kind of, it's not necessarily review. So I did review it. I did go over it. Like I literally watched it back in 2x speed and it sounded so much better. But yeah, I think it's kind of, you just know what went wrong. You know what went right. Like I came away from it and I literally just I felt like I didn't have the vibe. I felt like I was trying to focus too much. Like I was literally sitting here while he was talking. I was sitting here and I was trying to find questions. I was scrolling through. I was looking at all my questions and I was like kind of thinking, I was like trying to listen to what he's saying, trying to find a question that matches what he's saying, that will kind of keep the flow going and that will really work and that will like really help me. And but like that's not what you need to do. I think in a situation like that, when you're struggling, when you're not really sure what you need to do and you can't get the vibe, just sit back and listen. And that's it. You just sit back, you listen, you let them talk, you let them let it out. And the more you listen, the more you can kind of pick up on something. And then you can go, oh, that's a question. And then wait for them to talk. And then you throw it. And then it works. And then it lasts. And then if it doesn't work, that's fine. Because at the end of the day, if a question doesn't work, they'll still answer it. Like, they'll answer the question and then it might be in like 3 or 4 sentences, but in those 3 or 4 sentences they might give you information enough for you to ask another question which might last 20 sentences, 30 sentences. So it's kind of just understanding. I think a lot of that, I learned so much from that coming back. I was kind of just, now I don't go over the top with my research because I don't need to. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't need to know every nook and cranny about them. Like that's not the point. The point is I want to know it from them. I want to tell them to tell me. Like it's the same as like when I was listening to Chris the other day, and he was basically saying that they were talking about their whole podcast ritual and their protocol and stuff like that. And he was basically saying that he will never invite someone for dinner beforehand, and he'll never go for drinks or anything with someone beforehand. All of that will be afterwards because he doesn't want to know anything about you until you get in there. And then like the first 5 minutes of meeting them will just be a little hey, hello, kind of break the vibe, make sure everything's okay, and then they'll get straight into it. And then they'll talk. And he was like, I want to know everything about you on the podcast. I don't want to know about it beforehand. I don't want to find things that are quirky about you beforehand. Like, I want to know everything on the podcast because that's the whole point of it. And I took a lot away from that. And it was kind of like, okay, so now I go into my podcast and I have questions based off of what they do and questions based off of kind of, say for example, they started on this brand and they went to this brand. The question would be like, why did they rebrand? And like what the reasoning behind it was and what led them to make that decision. But it wasn't necessarily about the rebrand itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Chris and also Tim Ferriss had some like good episodes on the podcast, like preparation, etc. Not sure if you've seen him here. Had some like points regarding the questions, like to have like 10 key points, but don't expect to go through all of them. And leave like it's like point 2 leads you to another conversation, and it goes for 1 hour. Just don't feel like you have to go through all these 10 points.
The reason we have questions is simply just to keep conversation flowing. Like we have questions that we want to know, and we have questions that we want to kind of ask them, but the way that they're formulated might not be right for the conversations you're having, and you don't know that until you get into that conversation. Do you know what I mean? So like you could have X, Y, and Z of questions, but none of them you can use because none of them actually apply to the conversation you're having because it doesn't match the vibe. It's either too interviewer based or it's not vibey enough. So then you look at that question, you go, okay, and you're thinking about it, like, how can I change that? How can I tweak it? How can I make it better? How can I make it vibe a little bit more so that when I ask them the question, it'll hit? And that's what I always try and do. Like I have questions, I have them laid out. Like I know what I want to ask them. I know what information I want to take out from them. And that there is the most important thing. I know what information I want to take away from it. So the questions that I want to ask should be personalized to them rather than just generic questions that they will just shut down straight away. So I think the benefit of researching someone is you can personalize the questions. So like, say for example, you want to ask them how they got into fitness, but you don't just want to go, so how did you get into fitness? Like, because that's just boring. No one wants to answer that. You kind of go, oh, so I see that you started in football and then you went to fitness. How did that come about? Because then you've shown that you've done research, you've shown that you're interested, and then you want to know the outcome instead of just blatantly asking them, how did you get into fitness? Like, it's just boring. Do you know what I mean?
Do you feel the pressure building up when, let's say, the guest is explaining some stuff and you actually do not have the next question in head, and you know you have to come up with something because he can stop speaking in like 3 seconds and you have to keep the conversation going? Do you feel that pressure to improvise almost?
Yes and no. Like, I don't put pressure on myself. I try and do that. I just try and not put pressure on myself because at the end of the day, I don't need to. Do you know what I mean? So like how I lay out my questions is I don't lay out my questions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. I have topics. I have sections. So I'll have questions about them. I'll have questions about, say, if they're a competitor, I'll have questions about their seasons, their competitions, their kind of prep, their stuff. And then that'll be broken down into pre-prep, prep, post-show, competition, prep as a whole, off-season. Like, I'll give myself so many different topics that I can ask them. And if a question doesn't hit, and like you said, it comes to an end, and you know they're coming to an end, you don't have a question ready, then I'll just allow a bit of silence, and then I'll go into the next topic. That's kind of how I do it. So it's kind of like, you understand that, because the thing is, right, you might ask a question, it might be a really, really good question and it hits really well, but they might not give you any information to lead on to something else. So you've either got to do two things. You've either got to understand that, allow silence, because on a podcast, silence is good. Like, the main thing with Riverside is like, obviously this whole editing thing is really, really good in here. The only time I ever really edit is if I'm taking out specific parts that, like when I was with Jace went to the door like 3 or 4 times because he had loads of packages coming. They're the only bits I really edited out. Everything else I left in, because the whole point of a podcast is authentic. It's a conversation between two people. I don't like, when you're listening to it back, if you hear someone stutter or you hear someone make a mistake or say the wrong word or whatever, like, it just shows you're human. Do you know what I mean? It just shows you're having a conversation with another person. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's why people listen to podcasts. Like, you know that when you're listening to a podcast, you know you're listening for an hour and a half or an hour or 2 hours or 2.5 hours, however long the podcast is. You're aware that you're going to be talking for a while. No one's perfect. No one's not going to make mistakes in 2 hours of talking. Like, you have a conversation with your best friend, you probably stutter about 10 times. Like, that is just the way it is. So sway away from editing everything and just learn how to keep a conversation flowing. And I think that's the benefit, is like, the more you catch someone's vibe, the more you know how to talk to people, the more you know kind of if you're speaking too much or if you're not speaking enough. And I think that goes back to what you were saying about having other people who are podcasters are really good, because they know if they've spoken too much, they know if they've not spoken enough, and they know how to give more information even if they don't have it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the pause before the sentence can be a useful tool to just give some a chance to breathe. I really enjoy when Joe Rogan does his episode and it lasts like 4 hours, and they're like 2 hours in and they're like, let's take a bathroom break, and they're like, okay, we're back on. Or when he did the episode with Elon and Elon does like 15-second pause and you're like, man, is this thing loading? You're checking in, you see the video, and no, he's just sitting there thinking, and it's actually good. It's I think the rise in short form content, when every reel is like cut, so even the software gives the option to cut all the pauses, all the breaks, even if it's like 0.10 of a second, it all cuts. So it's like I understand the point when it's like short, like reels for Instagram, like you want to keep it short for the short attention span. But in podcasting, people who are into podcasts are already in for the long form content. They like you say, they don't mind the pauses. It feels more authentic that way. So yeah, I think this is really good. The one thing I struggle with is to actually use it in my own podcast, because sometimes I find myself expanding the questions too much. Like I need to know, like I have to be so specific in case that guest can misunderstand the question. So I redo the question like 5 times, like different versions of it, just to make sure. And that it might be irritating. Like for me, it's irritating because I listen back to every episode and I'm like, mate, just go on with the question. You are repeating it 4 times. Do you have that? Like, let's say you ask the question and you can tweak it a bit for a bit better question. So do you do it, or do you just go ahead with the one question and let the guest speak because he clearly understands it?
Yeah, I think it comes down. It goes down to vibe again. It's kind of like you can pick up on whether or not the question's going to work or not. But I think the main thing is, like, the question I'd ask you is, if you were having a face-to-face conversation, you just met them, this is the person that you want a podcast, and you're about to ask them, can you be on my podcast? If you have the conversation and you ask them a question or two, do you think about 5 different variations on how to ask that question, or do you just ask it?
Sometimes I actually do think of few versions.
Of course you do. Yeah, but like that's kind of the way that you should look at it. It's like the more you overthink it, probably the less the question's going to hit, which is why some of the best questions I've asked are the ones that I haven't even written down, because it's like, say for example, you've asked me that question, and then I kind of think about it. I'm like, but you don't think about that. You just answer the question. It's just like, okay, cool. So if you were to talk to someone in a face-to-face position, like, would you ask them 5 different variations of the question and see which one hits the best? No, you just ask one. And it's kind of like, that's the same thing with your questioners. Yes, they can interpret it. Like, if they interpret it wrong, they'll either answer the question, but in the wrong interpretation, but then you might actually get more information than you thought. Or B, they'll just go, what do you mean? Or like, how do you mean? Or they'll just ask you what you mean by it. So you don't lose anything out from saying the wrong question. And I think by overthinking it too much, you might actually the question might come across the wrong way, and then it might create the wrong vibe, and then they won't answer it with as much like emphasis or joy or whatever. So I think it's always kind of like you said, catch the vibe. Is know how they're going to respond, know whether or not the question's going to hit the mark. And it might be the right question, but it might be the wrong time. Simple as. You might have to sway away to a different topic and then come back to it and then ask that question, and it might hit better. But I think that just comes with time. Like, the more you do, the more podcasts you do, the more you understand, the more you'll realize that everyone's different, and you got to pick up. Like, I can pick up on people's personality types, the way they talk, the way they interact quite quickly. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty out there that I'll literally sit for a whole hour and I'm like, I don't understand your personality. I have no clue what's going on here. But for the most part, I can pick someone up like that. And then once I do, it's game. Like, I'll have 6 questions or 10 questions. I'll ask them 3. The rest of them I just think of. So I always try and say, like, if you're going to have questions made, great. Don't expect to have half. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'll create a whole list and I'll do loads of in-depth ones just to have more to ask in case that comes up in topic. And sometimes it does. Most of the time it doesn't. So then it's kind of like I allow myself just to sink into the conversation and just think about what I want to ask. Because like, if I'm having a conversation with you and we weren't in this podcast space and I didn't have a laptop in front of me and I didn't have loads of notes and whatever, and I was just speaking to you face to face, I'd have to think of conversations off the top of my head. And that's the same as a podcast. Like you're just having a one-to-one conversation, whether there's a screen in front of you or whether they're directly in front of you. It's the same.
Yeah, the issue with overthinking it is you cannot overthink your way out of overthinking. That's also something that Chris Williamson used to say. Like this is such a trap you can easily fall into. Speaking about the guest, and you actually mentioned something like when you walk up to a guest and you want to invite him on. When it comes to invitation, do you almost feel like a rush? Like let's say you just send out like 10 invitations and then you're like waiting for to see a response. Is there something in there, or are you treating it like calm, like a true professional? Because for me personally, like when I send like 10 invitations, I'm like, yeah, all right, yeah, I'm calm, but obviously I'm excited and checking in if someone responds. Most of the time there isn't any response, and I probably expect that. But when the one response comes, it's like, yeah, all the excitement, checking the calendar, etc.
So the reason I started the podcast in the first place was Jack basically said to me, he was like, you need more authority, you need more, you're young, you have a lot of information, you have a lot of knowledge, but a lot of people will probably overlook it because you don't have enough authority because of your age and because of the person you, like the way you stand in society. So he's like, start a podcast, get big guests, and you'll get more authority because people respect you for talking to people, especially if the podcast is good. Like I've had so many people come up to me and like, I like the podcast is class. Like I've loved the podcast. Like the questions you ask are really good. The way you flow it is really good. Like the one that I was saying that I found the most difficulty with, I've had more people tell me that was amazing and they've loved it and it was great. And it was like, and I'm like, that one was awful. Watch the other ones. But, yeah, I think the only reason I started it was to build more authority. So that night he was like, get 3 guests. You've got 3-4 hours, get 3 guests. In the span of 12 hours, I had 12 guests confirmed. Like it's not, when you overthink it. Yes. Like I sent out a message to Callum, and I was just like, hey, loving your information on this and this. Like what you're doing is really cool. I really like it. I'd love to have you on the podcast because I think a lot of people would take a lot of information away from you and would find it very, very helpful. Would you be down? Like that's all you have to say. And it's not rushed in that way because you're explaining your process, you're explaining why you want them on and how other people will take value. And like at the end of the day, Callum literally owns 2 companies that are solely dedicated to giving information to coaches and in that industry. Like I'm hoping that he'll come back and say, yeah, that'd be sick. Like he might not. And if he doesn't, that's fine. Like I'm okay with that. I'll just go to someone else or I just find someone else. And like, that's kind of the point is you might not win it. You might win it, but it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? Like there's no rush in it because at the end of the day, you're speaking to someone, you're asking them to be on a podcast. Like you can react to a few of their stuff and they might ignore all of it. And then they'll ignore your question because you've just reacted to their stuff. Whereas if you just come out and be like, I love what you're doing. This thing is sick. Like, I think loads of people will take a load of information from what you have to say. I have a podcast. Do you want to jump on it with me? Thank you. Or like, would you be down? That's all you have to ask. And then it's not rushed because you're not scapegoating your way in. Like you're genuinely interested in them. If you show interest and show passion in your invitation, they're going to react and be like, I'd love to help you out. Because for them, yes, they sacrifice a bit of time, but they have the potential of pushing their name further. They have the potential to give information to you who you can then share with other people so they could have more impact on someone else. They could end up having someone who messaged them and want to be on their team or want to be coached by them so they could get a benefit out of that. They sacrifice an hour of their time, an hour and a half of their time, but they could have infinite more benefit from it. So a lot of these people, especially if they are in tuned up here, they know kind of how to play the game, they'll be down 100% because they don't lose anything out of it.
Yeah, the only issue would be with the visibility and actually seeing the message, because some of the people, I assume, would be actually down to come on, but they would just never see the message. So there are some like tricks you can use, but you cannot force the message onto someone's screen if it is buried within hundreds of DMs. So that's like the main issue.
Go through their posts, find one where there's only a couple comments. Make sure that all the comments have either been liked or replied by the author. And then drop a comment saying, hey, I love the information that you're giving. I've dropped you a little message. Do you mind having a look at that? There you go.
Yeah, that's. I will definitely try that one. Not sure if it works, but it's obviously worth trying.
It might not work, but like if you go on one where there's barely any comments and barely any people and they've interacted or liked or commented on all of them, you're more likely to get a response out of that.
Yeah, scroll down to the first post they've ever did, and then comment on that, or go to the highlight stories. Like let's
or
say,
just sit on their account for 24 hours. Wait for them to post. The second they post, straight away, comment straight away. Be the first.
Yeah, look for the highlight reels. Oh, there's the 2nd year anniversary with my wife, and just reply that. Hey, mate, I love to get you on the podcast.
I love how beautiful your wife looked. Do you want to jump on my podcast?
Yeah, or like you mentioned to not search for information before the guest comes on to get to know him on the podcast. Like the best version would be to actually not even know the guest name, and you're like, hey, so what is your name? And they're like, they think you are doing the intro, but you actually, this is like a genuine question.
Introduce yourself to the audience for me. And introduce yourself to me while you're there.
It's like you are talking to someone, let's say at the party or in some social gathering, and you want to introduce a person to someone, but you forget the name. Like, I don't know, I'm bad with names or faces.
Say your name.
You just say to them, introduce to each other, and it's good.
Yeah. Mark, meet so-and-so. What's your name again?
I always have trouble when I meet someone and I see their face for the first time, and then I could like turn the other way around, look at them, and I forget. Like this is like yesterday I was actually at High Rocks. Not sure if this is like some like a CrossFit competition, something like that.
I don't know if it's. I hate High Rocks, but I know what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had one client competing there. And then after he was done, he was like, "Oh, this is my wife. His son was with them." And I'm like, "Yeah, like shake hands, etc." And his wife was wearing glasses. And then when I was like going off to my car, she wasn't. And I'm like, I couldn't recognize her.
I don't know
like,
who you are.
Yeah, this is such a weird. Yeah, but why did you hate High Rocks?
Why'd you put me on the spot here? It's not that bad. It's just not me. Like, I'm not interested in it. I'm a bodybuilder through and through. Like, I think High Rocks is getting more and more overpopularized. And now it's like the people that are doing it are just doing it because they can say they've done a High Rocks, and like there's no actual meaning behind it. Do you know what I mean? I think it's gone from being this really big thing that you have to train for. It's like an Ironman. You have to train for it. You have to really work hard. And then there's people like, yeah, so I'm just going to go fluke a High Rocks this weekend. And yeah, it just gets ridiculed. I think it's great. I think people who do it, who love it, great, good for you. It gives you a little goal to work towards if you're wanting to get fit or whatever. I think it's amazing, cool. I think as someone who comes from coaching clients, it's like having anything to push you to be better is amazing, like 100%. So I'll never fault it in the fact that it pushes people to be better and it pushes people to be the best version of themselves. I think that's amazing. But at the same time, I just don't like it.
I agree with the people jumping on the hype train. It's obviously like really hyped right now, but they're actually like being there in person. Like obviously there are people that probably like started training for it like 2 weeks ago just to post on Instagram. But the top athletes that like I'm pretty sure that they probably just came from CrossFit at the highest level. Yeah, they're like so good. Like most, even physique wise, like obviously it's not really a bodybuilding level, but yeah, most of the guys that are like doing like under 1 hour, yeah, they look like a very good men's physique. Some of the guys are actually like really jacked. There was some guy doing like farmer carries. He looked like a good like heavyweight bodybuilder. Like they were in really good shape. And yeah, I think anything that pushes people for more activity, doing physical work is very good. I also had some like clients' mother-in-law is doing actually high rocks with her friends. They're like I don't know 50 something years old, and they are training in, like doing group sessions just to compete in high rocks. So I think it's really good in that way. But obviously it's like way different than our sport. And I think like with cases like this, it's almost like, let's say you start a new thing. So the progression is really fast at first, and then it obviously slows down, like with anything. So I think there's a specific type of people that are like so novel. They are seeking novelty so much because the gratification is so unproportionately high based on the amount of work they have to put in. That this is the sports like high rocks is perfect for them because hey, there's something new. I can progress really high into it, and then like next month it'll be other this because they can accumulate so much skill points through the like let's say first 2 months. And within bodybuilding, let's say if you were to train for like 5 years, man, like every year after that is really slow. You have to like really grind to get significant results. And I feel like this is why it's such a cool sport, like our industry, because you have to be in there for a long time. Because if you aren't, like you are just staying at this mediocre level forever.
Yeah, I think it's benefit. I think especially if you're coaching bodybuilding clients or stuff like that, you know that if they're inquiring with you, if they want to work with you, you know that they're going to give their all, especially if they're like, I want to step on stage. They're aware that it's going to take a year or two, maybe like a year beforehand to get ready, and then a year to prep, like to do a pre-prep and a prep. And like, they know that they can inquire with you today, but they might not step on stage for 2 years. But they understand it's a process. They understand it's the thing. And I think that's the same with, I think the reason why high rocks is getting so popular is we're living in a world of instant gratification, and you can literally go into a high rocks with no experience, no nothing, and you could complete one. Whether you do it well or not, it doesn't matter. You can complete it. So in the grand scheme of things, you can go and just complete a high rocks, get that instant gratification, and now all of a sudden, like, it's easy work. Do you know what I mean? Whereas with bodybuilding, you can't just go in and wing it and step on stage. Like, you will just get ridiculed. So I think there's the difference between it. I think that's why the only reason I don't really like it is anyone can do it, and I just don't like that. I like being in something. I like pursuing something where specific people can do it. Specific people have to like really push themselves and really try. And I think high rocks is just one of those that we're living in a world of instant gratification, and this is just another gateway to feeding into that.
Yeah. So you don't like the low entry barrier sports?
No.
Yeah,
sorry.
100%.
Like I like the
no,
sports
it's your opinion. Like you don't have to like it.
Exactly. Like I like the sports where you can get into it really easy, and then you have to work really hard to get to a level where you're actually some sort of competitive. I don't like the ones where you can literally do nothing, just go straight into it, and you could beat and be like one of the top competitors. I don't like those kind of things. Like obviously skill and if you're naturally talented and if you have great genetics for something, I think that's amazing. But I think the whole process of working hard, it's not just about the sport, it's about changing your life. And I think the more that you can focus on changing your life and pushing yourself that way, I think the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, 100%. When it comes to the delayed gratification, I'm always happy when I see an inquiry comes in and he's like, I want to compete 2028. And I'm like this person gets it. Like you don't have to explain them. This like, you already won. Like this is another case if you will be, we've been working together in 2 years. But the fact that you are here right now and you know, you won't step on stage in like 3 months. We won't do a prep in 12 weeks. You have to commit. Like this is always a good sign.
Yeah, I have a young client he's 18, and he said to me, he was like, yeah, I want to step on stage 27, 28, like 2027, 2028. And I'm like, yeah, sick, fine. And he's like, the only reason I haven't had a coach is because like I'm struggling a little bit with funds and people just I'm not being given the opportunity. And I'm like, cool, fine. I'll give you the opportunity as long as you give it your all. Like if you want to step on stage in 27, 28, like you got to show me that you have the ethic to step on stage. Because if you don't, then like I'm not going to allow you just to pay this reduced price just to kind of get into the service and just have someone to coach. Like you're giving it your all. You're acting like you're paying more than you should, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like I don't like to reduce my service because I know the service I produce is good. I know it's worth what I charge, and I know that the people who want it will get results as a result. But like when you kind of go in and they're like, oh, can you do discount on this? Can you pay less? Or can I just do like half a month or something like that? It's like, no. And the only reason I'm saying no is because you're asking me for half a month, meaning that you're probably not going to commit yourself at all because you don't have that commitment. You're only paying for half a month. If I make you pay 6 months up front, I at least know that you're going to work hard for those 6 months because you've paid up front for those 6 months. Even if you get to the end and you go, this isn't for me, that's great, cool. But I know that up until that 6 month, you're going to give it everything you want because you want it to work because you've paid for it all. Whereas like if you're paying a discounted service, if you're like, I applied and got into some free course thing. I haven't touched it. Like I got into it like 5 days ago because I thought that it would be cool, and I still think it's decently cool, but like I thought that it would be really interesting and stuff like that. They didn't get back to me straight away. Took like a day to get back to me. As a result, I haven't touched it because A, I haven't really had the time, and B, when I do have the time, I want to do other things and I don't really care about it that much because I didn't pay anything. It was free. So like the things in life that are free, you won't value nearly as much as those that you have to pay for, or that you have to graft for, or that you have to work hard for. All of those things have more gratification out of it than the instant gratification of just getting something. Like no one wants to just get a girlfriend like that. Most people want to go through a talking stage. They want to learn more about them. They want to meet the family. They want to whatever. Like all of these things they want to do before they go, okay, do you want to be my girlfriend? Because it's not about the instant gratification. Because that's great. It gives you a dopamine rush, but it doesn't give you anything more than that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think like people are almost afraid to admit that the perceived value actually influences their involvement. And like you said, if something is discounted, like their efforts will also be discounted in a way. Like people expect like highest possible results without any work, like without any price attached to it. And yeah, I had clients, like potential clients. Obviously, we didn't end up working together. He was like wanted to go for the like 6 months in advance, but he wanted to divide it into 6 monthly payments. So he wanted to have the cheaper option of it paid in full, but divided into 6 installments. So this, and he, in his eyes, he was like being smart. Oh, why should I pay like this X amount for 1 month? If 6 months is cheaper, I'll just divide the 6 months into 6 installments. And people are like, whenever I don't know if you get this question, but whenever someone starts with the question like, how much is the coaching? And I'm like, yeah, man, mate, just like we can jump on a call, or I can like if you just put an inquiry in, I will get the Loom response video back to you, and then we could discuss the price. But if someone is just purely like, what's the price? There's 99% chance this won't ever work out, and the person behind the question, even subconsciously not knowing it, will likely not achieve the results, because he's looking at it from the wrong perspective. I'm not sure what you're taking on it.
If someone says to me, "Oh, your coaching is too expensive," I just go, "Okay, cool." And they're like, "What do you mean cool?" And I'm like, "Well, if you think my coaching is too expensive, that means you don't value your time, you don't value your efforts to that level. So therefore, why should I work with you if you don't value your own time? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, so like I'm charging X amount monthly. If you're not willing to pay for that to improve your own physique, to improve your own mindset, to improve your, like, just because I'm a coach, I'm not taking everything away from you and giving you results, right? I'm helping you by giving you everything you need so you can put in the effort to get the results yourself. Like, that is what our coaching is. We don't do it for you. We help you to do it. So if you're already telling me that my coaching service is too expensive, it means that you don't value your own improvement, your own development. Like, it's simple as that. The reason we charge more is because our service gets better, our brand gets bigger, our name gets bigger, and therefore the quality of the service that we give you is better. That is the reason why we increase our prices. It's not because we want to take more money from you. It's we want you to value your time more. If you want a cheaper coach, go with one of the PTs who charges like 50 quid per session. I can promise you, you're getting no support outside of the gym, and the sessions that you get are going to be pretty piss poor, and you're going to get nothing from it. So therefore, you're going to spend 50 quid for maybe 2 or 3 sessions a week. So you're going to be spending 150 quid. You're going to be spending 500 plus quid a month on some shit little PT, and you're going to get nothing on the outside, and you're just going to be throwing away your money. It's the same as like, you think my coaching, my £175 coaching, my £200, my £300 coaching is too expensive, but you'll spend £200 on takeaways in a month. Like, what's going on here? Like, you won't bat an eyelid at paying 30-40 quid for a McDonald's order, but you bat an eyelid at paying 100 and whatever, 200 and whatever into your own service, into getting yourself better and improving yourself. It's like, our price reflects how high you hold your own value. So, like, make up your mind, you know what I mean?
I think that is maybe the case that they are trying to look for a way out. Like, I would work with a coach, but yeah, he's too expensive. Like, the confirmation bias is turned on like immediately. So they aren't looking for a way to improve themselves. They're looking for excuse to actually not do it because it's easier, because it doesn't demand any action. And they're like, yeah, his charges too much. Yeah, I will do it on my own. And then year after year, they are stuck in the same position or worse by not taking action. But this is almost like explainable to them. Like, in their head, this is like all good. And yeah, I saved this much money. And if you were to ask them after 1 year, okay, so you didn't go with a 200 pounds per month coach. So you had that actually 2,400 pounds extra this year, or do you not? And they were probably like, oh, man, I'm not sure, I would have to check in. They probably don't. So this money still will be spent, and they still haven't done anything to actually do what their goal is. But is it actually their goal? Like, when someone says that their goal is to, let's say, lose body fat, build some muscle, is it their actual goal, or is it what they think their goal is? Because, like, from my perspective, if I have a goal, like, this is important for me. I want to do everything I can to reach it. But if someone doesn't take their goal seriously, like, I'm not even sure how to take it. Or is there anything we can do as coaches, or is it just the case of, yeah, like, good luck with other coach?
It's how they value themselves more than anything. I think that's the most important thing. It's like, how do you perceive yourself? How do you see yourself? So, for example, me, I started out coaching. I invested in a business mentor. I invested in a graphics designer to make sure that my stuff is top notch and I know what I'm doing. I invested in a mindset coach so that my mindset was in the right place and I wasn't holding myself back mentally, and I was thinking clearly, and I was improving myself that way. I invested in someone to help me in content, like all of these things. Like, within my first 4 months of starting my online coaching business, I spent nearly 12 grand on investments and mentorships. Did I have that 12 grand? No. Like, I don't know where that 12 grand has come from, but I've managed to somehow work it out. But that's not the point. It's like, when I got the mindset coach, for example, when we started out, I knew it was a lot. I knew it was more money than I was actually willing to pay. But I knew that by paying it, I would work harder to make sure that it's worth my time and I get the result from it. And as a result, I have. Like, my mindset's in the best position it's ever been. Like, I feel the best. I'm focused on things I need to do. I understood that sometimes I put too much pressure on myself, or I put too much on my plate. And it's not about taking things off my plate. It's about how I can make my plate bigger, how I can allow myself to fill it more, but be in more control and have more control over everything. And that's all it is. It's like, if a client comes to me and they're like, I want to step on stage 27, 28. And I'm like, okay, cool. We go through the whole process. And he's like, yeah, I love this. This is sick. And I go, okay, these are your options, blah, blah, blah. They'll probably end up going for the bigger option, or they'll just go for the monthly, whatever. Either one, you drop them the price. They're like, it's going to be X amount. Cool. That's it. They're like, yeah, fine, cool. Drop me the link. You give them the link, pay it straight away. No arguments. That's how you know someone actually wants it. Someone wants to work. They want to improve themselves. They value their time. They want to improve. If you give them the price, if you drop them the price and they go, oh, don't really have that right now, or like, oh, it's a bit much, it's a bit high, it's more than I thought. Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. Or like you said, can I split it over 3 months? It's a monthly thing. Can I split it for 3 months? No. It's like, you can't split a monthly price in 3 months. That is not how it works. But all of it comes down to, how do they value them time? If it's more than what they think about, if it's more than they anticipated, if it's more than, like, it's like, you're devaluing my service by saying it's more than you thought. You thought my service was cheap. If it's too expensive, you think that my time isn't worth it. And this is me sounding selfish, but that is how you see it. Simple as, if it's either you don't value investing into it, or you don't value the service that you want that's invested in it. Like, when I got the mindset coach, it was a lot more than I thought, but that wasn't because I underestimated her value. It's just because I didn't realize how expensive that was. But it wasn't a case of, oh, I can't do this, it's too much. It's a case of, okay, give me 5 minutes. Let me just think about how I can make this work. That's all it was. Because I wanted it. I want it bad enough. If you want it, you'll find ways to get that money. Like, everyone could have a spare 150, 200 quid if they really wanted to. Like, if you're like, oh, I've got your mum hostage, and if you don't find 200 quid in the next 2-3 hours, she'll die, whatever. You will find that in 20, 30 minutes, if not quicker, because you value your parents and you want it, right? If you look at
just don't use this tactic at the client call, actually.
Yeah. If you don't book onto my service, I'll kill your parents. No, but like, the main thing, what I'm trying to say is that you got to decide whether or not you want it or not. If you do want it, you'll find a way to pay for it. If you don't want it, then you'll just keep coming up with excuses. Like those who, like Matt talks about a while, and he says that he's been on a call with someone and they've given him injections straight for an hour, right? At that point, are you looking just to, at that point, is it more the fact that you just want them to sign up? Is it more the fact that you just want them to as the money for a number? Or are they actually right for the program? If they've given you an hour's worth of objections and then they end up signing on to you, are they actually going to give the time correctly? Are they actually going to work hard into it? Probably not, because they've given you an hour's worth of objections. Like, I understand objection handling and I understand it works, but at the same time, like, if someone is objecting into a service, do they actually want it that badly? Because I can tell you for a fact, everything that I've gone into, whether I'm paying for it or it's an investment or it's a service, I can't tell you I've given them a single objection. And if I have, it's not been an objection. It's been a, how can I make this work?
Yeah. This is like objection handling mastery. If someone gives you 100 objections and they still sign up, I would like to see that sales call.
Yeah. It's like, or no, it's not that I'd like to see the sales call. It's that I'd love to see their results in 3 months, or if they're even still there in 3 months.
Yeah. If they're even still there after first check-in, or if they're even still first check-in. Yeah. Speaking about having too much on your plate is basically like you can summarize, like if you feel like you have too much on your plate, yeah, just make the plate into a bowl, like expand the barriers you can handle. And most people, and I know this for a fact because I used to think like that, you can handle much more than you think, like work-wise, client-wise, like content-wise, when you actually audit your day, and truly audit it, like what are every single thing you do, like waking up, turning off the alarm, like every single do it for like 3 days, like strictly. And then he was like, after first meal, when I go into the treadmill, like I scroll through Instagram, and after like doing my steps, I sit down and do it for like 10 more minutes. Like all these things that doesn't feel like much, it adds up. And if you can spare like 1 hour each day, and most people would probably spare like 6 hours based on their social media use, there's so much you can do, like with everything. When it's client work, like content, there's just so much. If you're just honest to yourself, whether you are, because I think this is like weird for me, because people would rather not lie to themselves, that they are fine, they are doing everything they can, but just not seeing the results, and they are fine with it, but they aren't fine with being honest to themselves, that the reason they aren't getting the results isn't some kind of bad luck or mismatch with, I don't know, with universe, but they aren't putting the work. And yeah, I think this is like, when you realize that, it opens like your life only starts. I had that like 1 year ago or like 1.5 years, and it really changes the way you think, the way you operate, and you just see opportunities instead of objections, like everywhere. Everything is an opportunity. Something fails, like okay, what can I learn from that? Go on. Like it's so hard to have negative outlook on everything right now for me, because everything can literally be transformed into a positive, whether it's a lesson or opportunity.
Yeah, it's like at the moment, for example, I might not be getting clients in the door every single day, but I know that every time that I post a podcast, every time that I collab with someone on Instagram, every time that I post a piece of content, or I turn up to the gym, simply just turning up, or I post my gym workout, like every single thing of that will give me more reach, which will show more people to me. And like, for example, like I might not be getting clients in all the time, but I know that the more I build this podcast, the more authority I'll have, the more people who will see my page. And as a result, more people might be like, I actually want to be coached by this guy because he's cool. I like him. And I think that's the main thing for me, is like, I want to get back into YouTube more, just so I can post more of like my own stuff and more of me and more of kind of the way I am. But also this podcast allows me to talk freely with other people and share my own stories as well as share their stories and just laugh around. And it shows my personality, because a podcast is literally just me having a conversation with someone and being an idiot. That's all it is. And I love it. Like I love just talking to people and just being me, because I don't have to try. Like I don't have to force being someone else. I don't have to force trying to improve the way I speak and the way I talk and the way I act just to please someone else. I could just be myself. That's the whole point why people want to be on the podcast with me, is to be with me. So why would I change that?
Yeah, that's perfect. Listen, mate, we are going to wrap this up. I really, really enjoyed this conversation, and I will definitely like to have you back on just to discuss other topics. It's been really cool. Is there any final words you would like to say to the audience? Because we actually managed to run through some decent topics. It wasn't just strictly podcast about podcasting. We actually touched on some other stuff.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you very much for having me. I've had fun. If you haven't checked out the other episodes in this podcast, do. I also have a podcast. It's called Built with Intent. So if you haven't already see that, I would go watch that. It's good fun.
I'll
Got
put
some
the
good
link in
guests on there.
the bio.
I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm on Instagram all the time. Like there's not much going on for me. I put too much on my plate, so I do too much. But yeah, I've got a podcast on Instagram. It's charlie.taverner. If you ever want to speak to me, then I'm on there. But yeah, it's been a blast. I've taken a lot away from this. If I have to say anything to anyone, it's just pursue your dreams, keep going. Like you might start out and it's nothing, but have the dream that it will be something one day, and I can promise you it will. When I started out my podcast, it was just the idea of having a podcast, and I've had some guests on there that I never even thought. I've had loads of people that I looked up to, and I've spoken to previously that I looked up to, who have then messaged me saying the podcast is class, I'm loving it. So you can always have an impact on someone, even if it's only one person, or if it's 10,000 people, or if it's 1 million people. It doesn't matter. You can always have an impact on someone.
Yeah, perfect. So,
Thank you
so
very
we're
much.
wrapping this up. I haven't really thought out of the outro, so we'll probably
That's
just
okay.
cut
Go
straight
with the
to it.
flow.
This is like, oh, yeah, stop the